Hi, this is Dee, and you are listening to my podcast, Let Me Clear My Throat. In case you're not familiar with me, my name is Dee, and I do some podcasts, and I also have a YouTube channel. It is also called Let Me Clear My Throat. Sometimes I think you have to put the @ sign in front of it, so be sure to check me out there. I'm trying to been figuring out how to do a video, which I've talked about before in some of my other podcasts, and I can't get my voice to catch up with my mouth, so to speak, on the video. So I'm trying to figure that out. So until then, we're just going to do it this way. Today's podcast is actually a very big trigger for me, and I'm sure some other people that are listening. Um, be, because it is a real thing, and they might not even realize that this is something they're going through, or know even how to recognize the signs of someone that is going through this. Um, and there's a lot of different cases and scenarios, obviously, and a lot of different things, but it is very, very important to be educated um, as a parent, as a human being, but also to as a mother. Um, so we're going to talk about postpartum depression today. And this is a huge, like I said, a huge trigger for me. It's very, very personal. Um, I have talked before in my life in different podcasts about my grandson being killed and stuff. And there's a lot of situation into this scenario. I don't really want to go into detail as of yet in my podcast because, like I said, it's a big, huge trigger for me, and I'm still working out um, me on it. So, um, but my grandson was a victim of um, postpartum depression, and a very big thing. It is a thing. So I want to go over this with everybody, and hopefully we can shed some light on saving some babies, but also saving some mothers and some relationships, and everything else involved, because having a baby is a blessing, and it's a huge blessing, and no parent should ever have to go through burying their child, or feeling like they are anything but an adequate parent. There's a lot of things that hormonal and a bunch of other things that affect um, people's well-beings. And like I said, people handle things differently, and some people don't handle it at all. So we're going to read this together. Well, I'm going to read it. You're going to listen to it. I'm going to read this. Like I said, it's very personal to me, but instead of this time free talking, I did again print out some documentation from psychcentral.com, psych central.com. It has a lot of informative information on this website. I've been getting a lot of my information from there lately. And my next podcast I'm going to do after this one is going to be a spouse's guide to understanding postpartum depression. So I'm going to make sure I touch on that as well. It's not going to be included in this podcast, but it will be in the next one. So feel free to check that out too, because obviously they do go back to back. So this one here, like I said, was from psychcentral.com, and this would probably be a lengthy podcast, but it'd be well worth it. Obviously, if we can do some good and some justice for all involved. This was medically reviewed by Marnie White, and written and by Sandra Casablanca. I hope I'm saying that right. Updated on 3 11 of 21. It's basically postpartum goes beyond the baby blues. Postpartum depression is a mental health condition that presents with symptoms of depression right after giving birth and may last a long time if it goes untreated. It's not the same as baby blues. Feeling overwhelmed after childbirth is natural. Obviously, becoming a new parent, everything, it can get overwhelming. In fact, it's how most people feel after welcoming a baby. But symptoms of postpartum depression are more complex and may require professional support. So, what does postpartum depression look like? You cry often and without an apparent reason. You just randomly start crying. You are more irritable than usual, and sometimes you even feel like getting away from everyone, including your baby. And then there's a sudden guilt for feeling this way. Like you feel guilty. Like, why would I want to leave my baby? I love my baby. I love my family. I love my husband. You're fatigued. You're achy. You don't feel hopeful about what's coming up next. Sometimes you may even feel angry at someone and basically everyone, and yourself. Oftentimes, you might look at your baby and feel nothing. Then you start believing there might be something wrong with you, and this makes things feel worse. So you might look over at your child and just be like, you know, this is okay. This is mine. I'm stuck with this, or whatever your feelings may be. There might be a big, huge, rational, emotional amounts of feelings that come after you, and you don't know how to cope with them. And then obviously you feel guilty for feeling this way sometimes, because why would you feel this way about a beautiful little innocent baby that is yours? And you brought into this world and you love this baby. So it's a lot of mixed emotions. It says, in reality, I'm sorry, in reality, this isn't who you are. And it's not a reflection of you as a person or as a parent. In other words, postpartum depression isn't the result of character flaw, it's not the result of weakness, and it's not the result of a lack of ability to raise a child. Rest assured, you didn't do anything to cause these symptoms of postpartum depression. It's not your fault. Your body and mind are putting a filter on how you see yourself, how you see the world, and how you see your baby. But with help, the filter can be lifted. A good first step is understanding what postpartum depression is and what it isn't. An important follow up is opening up about what you're experiencing with family, friends, and health professionals. So, while you might be feeling this stuff, it's best to try to talk about it. Now, sometimes I say this in my other podcast, sometimes it's easier said than done, because sometimes when you talk to people, um, a lot of people are judgmental. And obviously, if they don't understand your level of emotion or what you're going through or can't relate, it's hard for them to comprehend. And then obviously, then you feel judged. A health professional obviously sees things differently because they understand this level of medical situation it is. And there are also support groups that are out there, and there are other people that are going through the similar situations and feelings and emotion that you are. So obviously trying to find a support group or somebody to reach out to would be very helpful. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone in your family or your friends, don't feel guilty about that either. But like I said, you need to try to find some way, some outlet to try to intervene those emotions and the way you're feeling, if at all possible. Um, it says, rest assured. Oh, I had to read that part. I'm sorry. A good first step is understanding, like I said, the postpartum is what it is and what it isn't. An important follow up is opening up about your experiences. Symptoms of postpartum depression. The symptoms of postpartum depression can be very similar to those of other types of depression. Symptoms of postpartum depression typically appear within 4 weeks after childbirth. In some incidents, they can come on fast, even within the first 72 hours. And obviously, if you're already going through depression already on other things in life, having an additive depression in a different way is not going to be helpful, obviously. So it's going to be like a double whammy on you. So it is very important to try to do the best you can to try to intervene what is going on with you. Because for one, your own mental and well-being, but your own physical well-being, but also to that of your child and the rest of your family. In other cases, sometimes symptoms might not appear until 6 months later, or even up to a year after delivery. So don't think that just because your baby's getting older, and a year's passed and you're doing the 1 year birthday or something, that you're going to be over it, because it doesn't always work that way. This can sometimes make it difficult to identify postpartum depression. General symptoms of postpartum depression include the following: feeling overwhelmed most of the time, intense sadness and feeling of hopelessness, crying for no reason and often, desire to withdraw from your baby, your partner, family members, and even social situations. You're just withdrawn from the world. Feeling detached, disconnected, and uninterested in your baby. Feeling disconnected from your partner. Worrying you might hurt your baby. Worrying someone else might hurt your baby. Not being able to sleep even when your baby is sleeping. Not being able to relax. Feeling lonely or neglected by others even if they're around. Trouble concentrating. Changes in your appetite. Having extreme anxiety episodes. Anxiety attacks, panic attacks. Experiencing anger or rage without an apparent trigger. Like just for some reason you just get angry and you're outraged and you just like, on edge about everything. Not being able to enjoy activities as you did before. Feeling guilt and shame. Acting irritable. Physical aches and pains and recurrent suicidal thoughts. Now, I'm just going to say that while these symptoms are very, very important, obviously, this is a lot of symptoms and standard depression as well, and a lot of other different things. But no here nor there. It is very important in any direction to make sure that you get it intervened and help to try to get you some help. And don't feel guilty or feel any less of a person asking for help for yourself. Your mental well being is just as important, if not more important, than your physical well being. Because when you're depressed, it starts attacking different parts of your body, and it goes for the weakest parts first. And and if you already have depression, like I said already, and then you add this in on top of it, it can very much amplify, and it can be dangerous, and it can be deadly for yourself and for your baby. This isn't an all-inclusive list of symptoms. Postpartum depression doesn't look the same way for everyone. These signs and symptoms of postpartum depression can last for a long period of time, from weeks to months. This is one reason why it is important to talk about it with your family and healthcare professionals as soon as you notice them. Now, again, sometimes it's hard, I think, to always recognize because sometimes when you're withdrawn, um, you're not in the right frame of mind to make rational decisions. So sometimes you don't even realize you're acting or being a certain way. So it is very important for those around you that if others notice different signs or symptoms or abnormality in someone, pay attention to those signs because sometimes that could make the difference. Uh, Sometimes people cannot think rationally enough to be able to reach out to somebody. And if they're withdrawn from the world, obviously, if you're withdrawn from the world, you're not going to reach out to the world. So it's very, well, I believe that, but it's very important as an outsider, another person, to pay attention without overwhelming the person that is suffering, obviously, because there's a right way and a wrong way to handle it. Don't attack anybody. Or come at them or be judgmental to them if they are suffering. Don't make them feel any less of a human being or any less of a parent or any less of um, a mother, a woman, um, because that's not going to help the situation. And if you really love them or care about them, you're going to try to go at their mental pace. And if you obviously can't put yourself in that scenario because you've never been through it, then make sure that you try to reach out to get help and suggestions from outside medical. Because you can go to somebody that is medical and talk to them about your concerns on somebody, or try to find resources on how to react to somebody that you think is suffering from postpartum. Which, obviously, like I said in my next podcast, I'm going to talk about spouses and postpartum. So I'm not really for sure on what all that says yet, but I know that there are resources out there. So obviously, try to make sure that you don't judge somebody, because that's only going to make it worse. That's not going to help. Um, Subtle symptoms of postpartum depression. Sometimes there are subtle symptoms of postnatal depression that might be missed, but that affect parents and their children nonetheless. One of these subtle symptoms is the tendency to ruminate or overfocus on negative thoughts. These thoughts could be about anything and everything, including yourself and your baby. Distorted thoughts might lead you to misinterpret some cues from your baby. For example, a cry for comfort from your little one might become a nuisance to you and could make you leave the room and basically just ignore them. Like you're overwhelmed, you can't handle it. And you just leave the room and you don't comfort them. And you just let them cry it out, or just ignore them altogether. This, of course, is not your intention. But because of your depressed mood, this is how you feel. This can get in the way of bonding with your baby and responding to their needs. Sometimes you might start obsessing about specific things. For instance, you might check the locks all the time or verify every few minutes that your baby is safe. You might also, you won't want anyone else touching your baby. You might be overly protective of your child. Um, when to seek help. Treatment for postpartum depression is important in all cases, but in some it becomes a priority. When your symptoms are getting worse or more intense, you have thoughts of hurting yourself, others, or your child, you're having problems functioning or performing everyday tasks, or you're having intense physical symptoms. If you're considering self harm or suicide, you're not alone. Help is available, and they have plenty of resources out there for people that are experienced and trained in this profession. I always talk about 988. It is a suicide prevention hotline. They have a lot of skilled professionals that are skilled to take your phone calls, non judgmental. Um, I think you can even talk to them anonymous. So if you just need to reach out to somebody, and also they have a regular phone number. I can give you that number too. It's 800 273 8255. Or you can text HOME, HOME, to the crisis text line at 741 741. Or obviously, you can also call 988. If is it baby blues or postpartum depression? Commonly confused, postpartum depression is not the same as baby blues. Baby blues refers to common feelings of irritability, worry, fatigue, and sadness during the first few days after giving birth. Basically, when your hormones are kind of getting back into place. Because when you have a baby, your hormones are everywhere. And even when you're pregnant, your, your hormones are everywhere. And some of you are probably thinking, oh, yeah. Obviously, it's a big, you were growing a human being inside you. A little innocent human being that developed and grew, and that you were responsible for. And you deliver this child, and now you have this tiny little human being that is handed to you, and now you are responsible to the care, welfare, and upbringing of this tiny little human. And it can be overwhelming. And not everybody is equipped. I say rephrase that. Nobody's equipped. Nobody's equipped to raise a child. You're never prepared to raise a child. You're never going to have enough money. You're never going to have enough resources. You're never going to have enough materialistic things. But you are going to have an innocent little human being that is basically all you need. And morals and educating them, understanding them, talking to them, loving them, nurturing them, that is stuff that is priceless. And That is things that don't always come natural, and that's okay. Nobody is a natural parent. You grow with your child, and your child grows with you. And some people, basically, if you want to look at, you grow up together. And being a parent doesn't come with a rule book. If it does, I like to know where to buy it, because I would like to see what chapter and verse I'm on. So, but it doesn't. There is no manual that is going to cover every scenario and every situation. And you're going to learn, and you're going to have trial and error. You're going to make mistakes, but you're also going to have moments that make you smile, make you laugh, make you feel good, make you proud, and make you look at this tiny little human being and can't imagine your life without them. And that's a lot. And that's a lot to take in. That's a lot to um, think about all at once. And sometimes people take all these emotions and feelings in at the same time, all at one time, and it's a big, huge tidal wave. But you don't have to ride that wave alone. You don't. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of resources, and there's a lot of people that are in the same situations or have been through the same situations and scenarios as you have. And like I said, 988 is a suicide prevention hotline. I'm not for sure what other resources are in this paper because, like I said, I haven't read it all yet. Um, but obviously, it would not hurt to um, look into resources ahead of time when you're in your, I guess you can say, right frame of mind, because when you're when you're in a trigger moment, or you're having an episode, it's a lot harder to think clearly on knowing what to do. So, trying to have a game plan or resources ahead of time can also help this scenario on trying to keep you back on track, and also trying to find ways to cope with your anxiety and your trigger moments, if you will, because not everybody's going to be able to um, have the same remedies as other people will. So, and obviously, like I said, there are resources out there, but your medical professional, your doctor, your pediatrician, feel free to talk to them because it is a natural thing. It does happen, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Um, says it. I lost my place. um, symptoms of baby blues may include waves of anxiety without any apparent trigger. So, like I said, you might just be randomly just be overwhelmed all of a sudden and just start crying, or just start, getting a big, huge anxiety attack or a panic attack just for no reason, just out of the blue. Worrying about being a good enough parent. Tearfulness. Doubting your own ability to handle your baby and the situation. Wondering when you'll be able to return to your regular activities. Feeling overwhelmed by the needs of your baby or not knowing how to respond to those needs. Obviously, like I said, babies don't, and they don't come with an instruction manual. And another thing that might be helpful is looking into parenting classes. Something like that might also help you to feel a little bit more prepared. Being concerned about your baby's health, being concerned about your relationship with your partner, feeling uncomfortable in your own body or having difficulty accepting the way it's changed. And also, I'm going to add this, getting a lack of understanding, if you will, respectfully, from your spouse and other people around you, because that can make you feel a certain way too. Up to 80% of people who give birth experience symptoms of baby blues. 80%. So, like I said, you're not alone. The main difference between postpartum depression and the baby blues is the intensity and the duration of the symptoms. Depression also requires professional support. Symptoms of baby blues usually resolve on their own within the first 2 weeks after giving birth. They also tend to appear at times but they might not be constant in your day. Now, I'm going to say this. While this is very true, um, it can also go on periodically throughout your lifetime as a parent because sometimes as a parent, you feel hopeless or you feel like weak as a parent. You feel overwhelmed. You feel like you don't have the answers. You don't know what else to do. You don't know how to respond to your child. You don't know how to talk to your child. Um, Maybe your child is rebelling, and it's a lot. It's overwhelming, and then you question yourself as a parent. And while this is not the same as the baby blues after giving birth, I know from experience this is something that also continues to go on as a parent. It does not end just because their age gets older. Actually, sometimes I feel like it gets harder. What causes postpartum depression? Like other types of depression, there is no conscious on the exact cause of postpartum depression. Some researchers have proposed that it might be related to hormone levels. Some people might be more sensitive to the surge in hormones during pregnancy and the sudden dip in hormones right after giving birth. But it's likely that postpartum depression is caused by a specific combination of physical and emotional factors. Some factors may be associated with a higher probability of developing postpartum depression. They can include thyroid disorder or related conditions, medical or family history of depression, multiple pregnancies, history of bipolar disorder or anxiety disorder, weak support system or social isolation, asthma, teen pregnancy, preterm labor, sleep deprived, grief or recent loss of a loved one, pregnancy or birth complications, symptoms of depression during pregnancy, and alcohol and substance abuse. Or you might, I'm going to throw this in there, you might have a previous child that has a physical condition, a mental condition, a health condition, um, some overlaying factors that also consumes your well-being and your time, and then adding another child to the mix can be a whole different level. Um, and like I said, and then if you're a parent and you're going through this, and say your spouse or your significant other is not supportive or maybe even abusive to you, and you're having to endure everything, um, that's a lot to carry. That's a lot to carry. And unfortunately, situations like that, um, they can lead to situations like my grandson. So my daughter was suffering postpartum. Um, I also have a granddaughter that has Down syndrome, and my daughter had a significant other who was not supportive and was abusive in his own ways. And it's very difficult. Um, it's very difficult to wrap my head around sometimes because as a mother, as a grandmother, as a woman, as a human being, I myself have looked at this scenario in so many ways, and it has taken me a long time to get where I'm at today. And if you've listened to my other podcasts, I've been very candid and open about me. I broke down crying in several of my podcasts because this is me. This is my life. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to go into deep details about things because there is more to the story. There is a lot more to the story. However, um, regardless of the rest of the story, the factor of it is that this is a real situation. And it's not the only situation. There are other people that go through similar situations. Some actually are more intense. Um, Now, like I said, my grandson died, but there are other babies out there that survived, but might be um, mentally challenged now. Might be a vegetable. Might be um, fighting for their life, um, or might be just like my grandson, and unfortunately didn't survive and ended up brain dead and passed away. So it's no joke, people. And I might read this paper and I might sound like all matter of fact and, say, hey, it's so easy to do this. I'm not going to say it's easy to do it because that's not true. Um, and I might sound all calm and collected and say, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that. And here's suggestions and here's telephone numbers and here's helplines and reach out to this person and reach out to that person. But I'm going to tell you what, my daughter had resources. My daughter had me. I took her and my granddaughter to all their doctor appointments. My granddaughter had heart surgery um, a week before my grandson died. My daughter and I, we were at Riley Hospital all the time. And if you're familiar with Riley Hospital, you know who they are. Um, we were at Riley Hospital in the Ronald McDonald House all the time. And my granddaughter had heart surgery. And the dad was not even going to go to the surgery. Now, I'm not going to sit here and badmouth him, but I'm going to tell you facts because this is how it goes. He wasn't even going to go to the heart surgery. He wasn't even going to go. And I'm like, why wouldn't you go? This is not like she's getting her tonsils taken out. She's having heart surgery. She was like not even 2 years old. Um, but she was 2 years old and she had already had 5 surgeries in her life. And one was the day she was after she was born. She was born. She was lifelined to Riley. Her pancreas was wrapped around her intestines, and my daughter had what they called a double bubble, and that was because of the situation with my granddaughter, and so she had to have surgery the very next day, and she rode in a helicopter lifeline to Riley, and about a week, like I said, before my grandson passed away, she had heart surgery. And my daughter and I were there. Actually, there was a few of us that were there. The dad did decide to go, but he laid his head down the whole complete time on the table. Didn't look up at nobody, didn't talk to nobody, didn't interact with nobody, nothing. Which is fine, no big deal. I mean, he might have been tired. But when she got out of surgery and it was time for the doctor to go over the surgery, the results, the instructions, just go over what happened. Um, Instead of him going in the room and listening and talking to the doctor on the welfare of his daughter, he left. And he demanded my daughter to come down there to give the parking garage pass so he can leave. I went into the room with the doctor with her. He left. He didn't even stay to find out how his daughter was. Um, my daughter went through this all the time. Like I said, I took her to all the doctor appointments. I helped pay some of her bills because he didn't have a job. I was paying her car payments. I was paying her insurance. I would put money in her bank to get diapers and food, help her pay bills, whatever needed to be, pay their cell phone bills. He got hateful with me one time and told me to take his number out of my phone. I said, well, since I just paid your phone bill, I think I'll keep it. I literally just paid your phone bill to have a cell phone. So I think I'll keep your number in my phone. Thank you very much. It got to the point where I was taking money and putting it in my daughter's bank account so much They knew me at her bank. At her bank, not my bank, her bank. They knew who I was, and they knew I was there to put money in my daughter's account. Um, I actually sold one of my vehicles one time in order to pay and give her money for some of her bills. Um, this is what I did. They moved away a little bit farther. She had no transportation because she ended up losing her vehicle. Um, because I couldn't always pay her bills and mine at the same time. And she did lose her vehicle. Um, she ended up losing her cell phone because, like I said, I couldn't keep paying her bills all the time. So she didn't have a phone. She didn't have a vehicle. She lived farther away from everybody. She was isolated. She was going through all the health conditions and everything of my granddaughter. Plus, she had another son older than her. Um, and then she had my youngest grandson. And the dad would never hold my granddaughter. And this is what my daughter was going through. And um, Christmas time, they came over for Christmas dinner. We had a big family. We always had big holidays. Um, and people used to say our tables were bigger than the Lord's Supper because we had a table, then we had an extended table. um, and then it got to the point where we had to have a third table because we just didn't have room. And that was the way our family holidays always were, always. And that's why I said my mom and I don't know how to cook for a small amount of people because we were always cooking basically for an army. Um, so um, the last Christmas that they were down here, my grandson was very small, and he probably only been live. He was probably only a month old at the time of Christmas, and maybe a month and a half. And the dad came. He wouldn't come in. He sat out in the vehicle the whole complete time. Didn't say hi, hello, kiss my butt to anybody. He didn't help her with the kids. So she had to bring all three of the kids in. She had to carry all the gifts out, carry the other gifts in. Of course, I helped her. Um, she had to run after them. She had to do everything. And he sat in the truck. Didn't come in, didn't interact, didn't watch his kids open presents, didn't help with the kids, and nothing. Nothing. And then he was complaining the whole time on how he wanted to leave. And that's what she went through. And it was about a month later that my granddaughter had her heart surgery. And then on the 19th of January, um, my daughter had called me. I was cleaning crime scenes at the time, and we had just got in from a case. And she said that the baby um, was had been taken by ambulance to the hospital. That he had the baby had stopped breathing, and she had to give the baby CPR. And the baby was at the hospital. I thought she was talking about my granddaughter because my granddaughter had all kinds of health problems and had just got home from having heart surgery. And then I couldn't understand her, and so I called him to find because I couldn't get a hold of her. And I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "You'll have to hang up with me and call her." And I'm like, "Okay." Like he didn't tell me. And he's like, "You'll just have to call her." And more or less, like, he gave me the impression like I'm busy. He didn't want to fool with it. And which I could be wrong, it could be for other reasons, but that is the way I took it. And so I finally got a hold of my daughter, and she was just hysterical, obviously. And um, she had given my grandson CPR because he had stopped breathing at home. And she gave me CPR, brought him back. Then he coded again in the ambulance, and they brought him back. But when they brought him back this time, he was non-responsive. So that was on the 19th of January. The 22nd of January, they ran some testing on him to test his brain and um, stuff like that. His eyes had been hemorrhaging, had been bleeding inside. And there was nothing else wrong with him. There was no bruises on him, no lacerations, no contusions, no marks on him at all. The only thing was is his eyes were bleeding internally. There was no other trauma to him, and there was no activity with his brain. So the 23rd of January, they decided to take him off of the machines. And that was also my birthday. And being in the line of work I was in, I went downstairs and this lady approached me. I don't know who she was. She said, maybe something good would come out of your grandson dying. Yeah, she said that. And I said, what in the would benefit my grandson from dying? And I looked at her like, get out of my face. And I went upstairs. I took the elevator upstairs. I went to my daughter and I said, if you never do anything I ever ask you, please donate his organs. Don't make his death be in vain for anything. And there are little girls walking this earth right now because of him. My daughter donated his organs. And that's a real thing. It's a real thing. And the whole time that my grandson was up there on life support, the dad wasn't up there. The police had to go to their house to tell the dad to come to the hospital. Because he wasn't there. And like I said, there's a long story in this, and I don't really want to go into much more. But my point of this is, you can take all the paperwork out. You can take all the symptoms and all the resources, and you can take all this and that and the other of what you can find on the internet, and it comes down to this. It's a real thing. It's not a joke. It's not something to be judgmental on. It's not something to be passive on. It's not something to be felt guilty on. And it's not something that needs to come down to the fact of somebody having to die, whether physically and mentally, emotionally, or any other way. There should not be one baby or human being that is a statistic. Not one. But unfortunately, it is a real thing, and my grandson is one of those statistics. So we're going to finish reading on here. And that is a big reason why I chose this podcast today. And I can't even believe I'm sitting here doing this and I haven't started crying yet. I'm on the edge of tears, but I'm trying to keep my composure because, like I said, I've come a long way. The effects of my grandson dying has traumatized me so much. I have lost my complete well-being. I lost my home. I lost all my belongings. I lost myself. I was homeless for 2.5 years. And now my insurance company sends me a letter telling me that I am medically fragile. Me. The insurance company sends that to me. I am in physical therapy. I am in mental therapy, and I am seeing a family doctor, and I am on medication now. I actually celebrated my birthday this past January. I celebrated my grandson's birthday, and I actually did I started doing life again. I take care of my mom full time, which I've talked about. My dad passed away, and I actually take care of my mom 24/7 now. She's in bad health condition, and she's blind. But I've come a long way, and I'm not even the mother. I'm just the grandmother. But that's how much it affects. That's how much. That's how deep it is. That's how deep it is. And I'm not gonna play word games. That's how effing deep it is. It really is. Um, so we're gonna continue reading here because if not, then I will start crying. So, um, because there are so many other things that play a role, the U.S. Prevention Service Task Force recommends that you're screened for symptoms of depression during and after your pregnancy, regardless of presence of contributing factors. Now, I will say this: my daughter was on medication for postpartum when my grandson passed away. She was on medication. Is it postpartum or depression or postpartum psychosis? Postpartum psychosis is rare and more severe than depression. It's estimated to occur in 1 to 5 people out of 1,000 who have recently given birth. Symptoms of postpartum psychosis usually appear after the first 2 weeks after childbirth, but also can show up for up to months, several months. They involve losing touch with reality. Some postpartum psychosis symptoms are hallucinations, seeing or hearing things that others don't. Rapid changes in mood and emotions, usually from one extreme to the opposite. Aggregation, delusions of false beliefs, episodes of mania, episodes of depression, similar to those of postpartum depression, paranoia, confusion and disorientation, aggressive behavior, and refusal to eat or sleep. Postpartum psychosis requires immediate medical attention. With timely treatment, you can find ways to manage your symptoms. Postpartum psychosis requires immediate medical attention. It is not a joke. This is where it gets deeper. And it doesn't always have to go into psychosis in order to be deadly or overwhelming. Like I said, there's no exact word for everybody's case and scenario. There's not. Um, so what is deemed um, for one person might not be for another. And just because you don't have some of these symptoms doesn't mean that you're not suffering. And you might confuse it with just normal symptoms of depression or moodiness or hormones, or maybe it's that time of the month, or whatever the case may be. And you might just dismiss it. But if you're feeling any of this, like I said, it's no joke. And there's no shame in getting help and talking to somebody. And if you don't feel like you can talk to your spouse or a family member, reach out to support groups that go through this same scenario. I know, like on Facebook and stuff, as an example, there's groups on there. Now you don't necessarily have to go into your whole, whatever, but reading some of things that other people post in that group or specific group or whatever might also help give you an insight that you're not alone, and it might actually help you to um, initiate, I guess, if you will, on that little extra nudge of getting help and talking to someone. Can postpartum depression be treated? Postpartum depression can be treated. The sooner you find support, the sooner you can work on relieving some of your symptoms that you're experiencing. If there's an underlying condition that's contributing to how you feel, your health team will want to address that. First, example, basically, balancing your thyroid hormone levels. When that's done, talking to a mental health professional can also help. It might just be a matter of giving you some medication to balance your hormones out. In general, postpartum depression is often treated with interpersonal psychology. I'm sorry, interpersonal psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, bright light therapy, electroconvulsion therapy, and antidepressant medications. Now, are medications safe during this time? If you may wonder if you can take antidepressants, say for example, if you're breastfeeding. Even though not all antidepressants can be prescribed while you're breastfeeding, some of them have little risk side effects to your baby. Talking with a healthcare professional can help you weigh the risk versus benefits of specific drugs, including your baby's pediatrician. In this conversation, can provide you with additional insight. If left untreated, postpartum depression can last for months or years. With the right treatment, you can cope and start functioning better. Self help strategies for postpartum depression. While the most effective way of treating postpartum depression requires the support of a health team, you can be an active participant in your recovery. So obviously looking into self-help things, knowing ahead of time on how to alleviate some of your triggers or counteract some of your anxiety attacks or moments that you're having, if you will. Sleep as much as you can. This is probably the most important thing that you need to do after giving birth. And if you're any type of parent mother like I was, that didn't have any support from your spouse or significant other, this is almost next to impossible. But sleep deprivation can be just as harmful because it plays tricks on your mind. When your mind does not get rest, and then it can't basically reboot. It can't um, like function, and it starts other psychosis things happen. So obviously sleep is very important. Um, Research has suggested that poor sleep quality increases the risk for more severe postpartum symptoms. Health professionals recommend that every adult at least 7 hours of sleep within a 24-hour period, which as a new parent is easier said than done. There you go. Yes, it is. Um, to improve your sleep hygiene, you can also make sure your room is as comfortable temperature and as dark as possible. Listen to relaxing music or nature sounds during the day, and when trying to sleep, also avoid caffeine. Try to take naps when your baby takes naps. If you're having a hard time sleeping, consider talking to your doctor for additional ideas that work better for your specific situation. Consider leaning on your partner if you can, family and friends to get a nap in when you can. Grandparents are really great at wanting to spend time with their grandchild. And not all grandparents, but I was. um, if you're having a hard time with any of this, obviously, reaching out to your healthcare doctor to seek alternatives is important, and that always goes back to that because you sometimes you can't do it on your own. And like I said, when your mental state of mind is not in the right place and it's not um, in the right frame of mind, if you will, it's not always possible to intervene yourself. Save time for yourself. Even though you might find it challenging at first, saving time for a few relaxation techniques, if possible, is one of the most effective ways to support your well being. Relaxation time can also include time to take a shower or a bath. Now, if you're like me, in my time, I was a single mother because my ex husband and I got divorced. My kids were 2 and 4. And then later on, I had another child 10 years later, and I raised my children by myself. And there was times I actually, when my son mainly, I would have his car seat or his high chair in the bathroom with me. to take a shower because otherwise I wasn't going to get one. So I would either have him in the car seat or I have him in the high chair, and I'd peek around the curtain or whatever to check on him while I was trying to take a shower. And this was quite often. Eat your favorite food. Watch an episode of your favorite series. Read a few pages in a nice book. Have a cup of tea. Watch the sunset. These are just some examples. Ask and accept others help from others. Asking for help doesn't mean you're failing or you're weak. It gives you the opportunity to get support and feel loved, which can also help you feel better in time. You can ask a relative, a neighbor, a friend, or anyone else that you trust to stay around for 30 minutes maybe while you take a relaxing bath or go for a walk. Help you prepare and pack meals for a new week, so you can have meals prepared at hand. Take a walk with you around the neighborhood, or maybe load your little one up in the stroller and go for a nice walk outdoors. Nice sunshine is really good for you. Maybe you can have one of them join you on a video call to chat. Pick up some a few groceries for you to help you, or maybe you can order them online so you don't have to go to the grocery store. Pick up and watch your baby while you pamper yourself at a hair salon or nail salon. Maybe run some errands for you. Bring their child over, spend time with yours, so they can have like, um, what's it called? When they act with or interact with another child. Um, Play date. That's the word I'm trying to think of. Help find the information you need to make decisions. For example, finding a therapist online or printing a few questions, so they might actually help you do some research on trying to find ways to make you feel better. Don't skip any meals. May sound like an easy thing to do, but to get all 3 meals in during the day sometimes can be hectic. But eating regularly is very important for you and the health of your baby, especially if you're breastfeeding. Whatever you're taking in, your baby's taking in. Grabbing a bite every few hours can help you to take short breaks and keep your body alert and strong. Um, Also, I have learned that eating or snacking, healthy snacks and portion control about every 2 hours actually does help with your metabolism, because when you don't eat, it actually slows down your metabolism. This is just what I've learned. Although it's important to indulge in your favorites once in a while, try to keep your diet full of fresh and healthy foods as well. Moving around. This may sound like the last thing you want to do. You may feel fatigued, as if all the things you need to do, um, you know, everything could just be overwhelming. You just don't have any energy. But taking at least 15 minutes each day to move freely and exercise to give your body the endorphins it needs to feel better. You can find an easy at home exercise routine or just put your baby in the stroller and go for a walk. The goal is to get your body in action every day for as long as you can. Maybe take your baby to the park, push them in the swing, or something. Just get some sunshine. Or maybe you do like a little picnic out in your yard, lay the blanket down and, you and your baby just kind of sit out there and enjoy the sun and, whatever. Um, Other ways you can exercise include doing a few squats while heating a meal, stretching on the floor while your baby is on the mat or sleeping, doing a couple of lunges while you walk around, or maybe going to the bathroom. I don't know why it says that. While you walk around toward the bathroom. Doing a couple lunges while you walk around toward the bathroom. I guess it could be walking around towards anything. I don't know why it has to be the bathroom. Because if you're like me as a parent, you never get time alone in the bathroom. Dancing your way around your home. Joining a mommy and me class. Before doing any of these or any other exercise, obviously it's a good thing to talk to your healthcare provider. It says to breathe. Take some time every hour to just pause 1 to 3 minutes to breathe deeply. This is particularly important at times when you feel overwhelmed. To do breathing exercises, it says you should do the following. Close your eyes or just focus on a wall, a window, or anything else in the room. Take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it for 3 seconds. Breathe out slowly through your mouth as you feel your back and shoulders relax. Take as many seconds to breathe in as to breathe out. For example, breathe in for a count of 5 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, breathe out for a count of 5 seconds, and then repeat this exercise for up to 10 times every time you do it. Let the light in. If you can, trying to get at least 30 minutes of sunshine every day. Remember to ask your baby's pediatrician about the best ways to protect them from the sun, because some babies are sensitive. But if you're also on medication, some medications are also photosensitive. So going out in the sun sometimes on certain medications can also have a factor on you or your child. So make sure that you know um, which ones interact with the sun and which ones to be aware of. It is also important to let natural light in through the windows during the day and at times when you're not trying to sleep. If you feel getting sunshine every day is challenging, you might want to consider a light therapy box for artificial sunlight. I know some people, like my mother, for example, is not able to go outside. Well, she's basically bedridden, so she is actually on vitamin D supplements. And the sun is a great source of vitamin D. And it does raise your endorphins, and it's like a um, happy thing. So, um, obviously, getting some sunshine is very important. But if you are vitamin D deprived, it can also have an factor on you as well. So sometimes you might have to have supplements. Obviously, that's something to discuss with your doctor. Next steps. Postpartum depression is a formal condition that involves symptoms of depression after giving birth. Thankfully, help is available and coping is possible. No matter how intense your symptoms are, once you reach out for treatment, you'll be on your way to mental wellness. And it lists some resources that can help you to take first steps to feeling better. Postpartum progress support groups, postpartum education for parents outreach forum, Postpartum Support International Helpline, and the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Again, that's 800 273 8255, 988. You can also call 988, or you can text HOME, HOME, to the crisis text line at 741 741. And they also have a line for Spanish at the National Suicide Prevention Helpline. And that number is 888 628 9454. Just because um, you have a different nationality or different religious belief or different color of skin or different zip code or um, whatever the case may be, does not make you immune to um, postpartum depression. So, and it doesn't mean um, that your feelings are not justified and that your feelings don't matter, because they do. So please reach out the best you can. Take precautions for yourself and your child. And if you are someone that is aware or sees any signs or anything, like I said, reach out to that person. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And if you're a spouse or a significant other, be a little bit more empathetic. Um, Not that your feelings are not justified, because I know that there are two parents to make a child. If you are actively in your child's life, obviously you're going to go through your own situations as well. But however, that's a different type of, not saying that's any less important, but that's a different type of depression. And that's a little different. But however, your feelings are justified too, but that's a different podcast. That's a different subject. Right now, we're talking about postpartum depression. We're talking about the mother. We're talking about the female. We're talking about the mother of your child. We're talking about the well-being of your child. And if you love your significant other, then you would have to love all of them. But at the same time, too, um, you are supposed to be their safe haven. You're supposed to be their go-to. You're supposed to be the person they lean on that is non-judgmental to them, but also too, that's not always the easiest thing to do. Sometimes parents feel ashamed because they don't feel adequate enough, or they don't feel um, whatever the case may be. There might be maybe some friction or some problems between the two of you, and it is causing additional problems with the mother and depression and stuff. And you trying to reach out might make the mother think that you have an alternative motive, not realizing that you're trying to help. Or if you um, have a problem with your significant other, or your ex, or whatever, your child's mother, you might feel like you're a disgruntled, parent, or you're trying to attack them or judgment. There's a lot of scenarios in here, but what it comes down to is one thing: you all matter. That baby matters. That baby is innocent. That baby is a human being, and that baby is important. Now I will also add this in here, and then I'm going to close this out. Um, for many years, I struggled with my situation. And like I said, I'm just the grandparent. But still, I lost my grandson. I lost him on my birthday, and regardless of that, it was a little human being, a little person. Um, and I have bounced in my head several times. What did I miss? What could I have done? Because there was so much going on. And if you are someone who does try to interact, does reach out, does try to help, or maybe has to be directly involved somehow, whether you're a parent, grandparent, relative, whatever the case may be, um, and something happens, it's very hard not to blame yourself of missing something. It's very hard not to um, have bouts of guilt, if you will, or remorse and mixed emotions and stuff. Like I said, I lost my complete life, and it wasn't even my child, but I lost my complete life, my well-being. I lost myself, and I fell hard into a darkness. Hard. I have the scars on my body to prove it. Um, and I have taken years, years. My grandson would have been 8 years old this past November. And it has taken me probably about 6 or 7 of those to actually start living again and not feel guilty about living. And he didn't. Or having my birthday and celebrating my life while his life was gone. But of taking it to where I have learned how to take the heartache of the pain and counteract it with something as positive as I can. Something good did come out of my grandson dying. That woman was right. Now you might think that sounds crazy, but something wonderful happened with my grandson dying. There are 3 generations of families that are going to continue to grow and live because of him. There is a little girl that walks this earth today because she has his heart, literally. So yes, even in the most horrific times in life, there is always something good that comes out of them. You just might not see it, realize it, understand it, but it's there. If anything, you're still here. And that is a blessing all in itself. So, on that note, I'm going to close out. And if you are feeling any type of any way, please reach out to someone if you can. Try to find coping mechanisms. Try to realize the signs and be honest with yourself. Because lying to yourself is not going to do anybody any good, but is not going to do you any good. And you can be honest with yourself internally. You don't even have to make it known publicly. You have to be honest with yourself internally and teach your other half of you how to heal. But also accept the fact that you're not going to be able to heal overnight. But there are resources out there that can help you along the way. It might just be what saved your child's life and your own. And on that note, I'm going to close out. Like I said, my next episode I'm going to do is basically a spouse's guide to understanding postpartum depression. Um, and it will be my next podcast that I do. Again, I have a YouTube channel. It's called, I forget what it was called. I'm sorry. Let me clear my throat. Um, let me clear my throat. And there's the @ sign, I believe, in front of it. I don't know exactly how it's put on YouTube because I have to put the @ sign in front of it. And I put @ let me clear my throat, and it comes up. So, but also too on my podcast here on Podbean or however you're listening to it. And if you have any suggestions or any feedback, I am all up to listening to them. I'm always open to respectful criticism, but I'm also open to conversation and ideals. And eventually, I would like to have guest speakers. And if you have any knowledge on how I can do any of that, obviously I would have to do pre-recorded video, not live, because I do take care of my mother. And I will probably have to pause it here and there. I've paused this already one time, and I'm not sure if you noticed it or not because my mother did ring for me, and I had to go take care of her. So sometimes I do that. I lose my spot in talking, but I kind of knew where I was at in this one, so I just kind of kept on going. But I will be trying to do pre-recorded because I can't do live videos right now on that. So anyway, before I get to rambling on. Again, 988 is the suicide help prevention line for anybody that needs to reach out. You can do it anonymously, but also too they are skilled and trained professionals. It's very important. Mental health is just as important as any other type. So, and don't feel like you're a freak or be ashamed for reaching out to anybody. If anything, I believe it makes you a stronger, more heroic human being. And there's no shame in that at all. So, again, this is Dee, and you have been listening to my podcast. Let me clear my throat. Um, Thank you, and have a great evening.